do for a job?
We stop the bad guys from being mean.
Who are the bad guys? Do you know where
Star Wars people.
Star Wars people?
Yeah.
Those are the bad guys?
Yeah.
Can I tell you the bad guy's name?
Yeah.
This is the guy Joseph Kony.
He's the bad guy?
Yeah. Who's this?
Jacob.
Joseph Kony, he has an army, okay? And what he does is he takes children from their parents and he gives them a gun to shoot, and he makes them shoot and kill other people.
But they're not going to do what he says because they're nice guys, right?
Yeah, they don't want to do what he says, but he forces them to do bad things. What do you think about that?
Sad.
I couldn't explain to Gavin the details of what Joseph Kony really does. Because the truth is, Kony abducts kids just like Gavin. For 26 years, Kony has been kidnapping children into his rebel group, the LRA. Turning the girls into sex slaves. And the boys into child soldiers. He makes them mutilate people's faces. And he forces them to kill their own parents. And this is not just a few children. It's been over 30,000 of them. And Jacob was one of those children. As if Kony's crimes aren't bad enough, he is not fighting for any cause, but only to maintain his power. He is not supported by anyone, and he has repeatedly used peace talks to rearm and murder again and again.
Kony, different times, proposed peace and then just regain strength and attack.
This is the head prosecutor for the International Criminal Court. In 2002, when the court was started, their job was to find and demand the arrest of the world's worst criminals. Although there are a lot of warlords, murderers, and dictators in the world, the perversity of Kony's crimes made him first on the court's list.
Kony is the first guy indicted by the ICC. But the crimes basically are these: crimes against humanity and war crimes committed against the civilian population, including murder, sexual slavery, rapes, abductions. We need to plan how to arrest Kony. Start to plan and start to be serious. In fact, the only way to stop Kony is showing him, guy, we're going to arrest you.
What do you think we should do about it?
We should stop him.
The criminal here is Kony. Stop him and then solve all the problems.
We should stop who?
Him.
It's obvious that Kony should be stopped. The problem is 99% of the planet doesn't know who he is. If they knew, Kony would have been stopped long ago.
Let the world, let the international community take justice to him there. Follow him wherever he is. First, to rescue our children. And secondly, to deliver the justice.
We are determined to cooperate with any friend of Uganda to ensure that this mindless killing and slaughter is ended.
When my friends and I came home from Uganda, we thought that if the government knew, they would do something to stop him. But everyone in Washington we talked to said there is no way the United States will ever get involved in a conflict where our national security or financial interests aren't at stake.
No administration, Republican, Democrat, Obama, Bush, Clinton, doesn't matter, would do enough because it's simply not an important enough issue on the radar screen of American foreign policy.
Since the government said it was impossible, we didn't know what else to do but tell everyone we could about Jacob and the invisible children.
Show this movie to as many people as possible
in such a way that we can't be ignored. And when we did, people were shocked, and their awareness turned into action. We started something, a community.
I have friends that have been living in this conflict their entire life. Fight for that, because that is what is going to change this world, and that is what defines us.
We got creative, and we got loud.
It's not over! It's not over! It's not over!
And as the LRA began to move into other countries, Jacob and other Ugandans came to the US to speak on behalf of all people suffering because of Kony. Even though Uganda was relatively safe, they felt compelled to tell the world that Kony was still out there and had to be stopped.
I'm here so proud advocating for the people who are back at home. And this change we're going to make is going to last forever.
We built a community around the idea that where you live shouldn't determine whether you live. We were committed to stop Kony and rebuild what he had destroyed. And because we couldn't wait for institutions or governments to step in, we did it ourselves, with our time, talent, and money. So we rebuilt schools.
The best you can offer a child is by letting them be independent, and that was providing education.
We created jobs.
I have seen the lives of those who have been hopeless. Now they have hope.
And we built an early warning radio network on the front line of the war to protect villages from rebel attacks.
To update real time what's happening on a war zone 8,000 miles away.
All of this was funded by an army of young people who put their money toward their belief in the value of all human life. They gave a few dollars a month of what little they had to a program called Try, and proved that a bunch of littles could make a big difference. And as a result, the unseen became visible.
I've talked to people from Mexico, from Canada, from every other state that I can think of. We're all doing this for the exact same reason, and we're all coming from completely different places. This is what the world should be like.
So with hundreds of thousands of people with us, we went back to Washington, D.C., and we met with congressmen and senators, one by one, on both sides, Republicans, Democrats, and they all agreed with us. Joseph Kony's crimes had to be stopped.
Of all the problems that are out there, none is more severe than one that mutilates and takes the lives of little kids.
These young members of the Invisible Children organization know that no child should live in fear of being abducted or killed.
So they were determined to become their voice. They realized that these African children and families were invisible to Washington policymakers, so they decided to make them visible.
And what I was told would never happen suddenly became possible. In furtherance of the Congress's stated policy, I have authorized a small number of U.S. forces to deploy to Central Africa to provide assistance to regional forces that are working toward the removal of Joseph Kony from the battlefield. Sincerely, Barack Obama.
The surprise announcement came in a letter from the White House. The U.S. president's decision commits U.S. troops to help.
Through advice and assistance, not putting Americans into combat, to help the countries of the region end this threat once and for all, then that was a worthwhile investment.
We used to think we could not do it, and now when I see we can do it, I am overwhelmed.
After 8 years of work, the government finally heard us. And in October of 2011, 100 American advisors were sent into Central Africa to assist the Ugandan army in arresting Kony and stopping the LRA. It was the first time in history that the United States took that kind of action because the people demanded it. Not for self-defense, but because it was right. We've come so far, but Kony is still out there. He's recently changed his tactics, making it even more difficult to capture him. And international support could be removed at any time.
If we take the pressure off, if we're not successful, he is going to be growing his numbers. People forget. And you got to remind them, and it takes numbers to remind them. And if interest wanes, then it'll go away. And I'd end up standing out there alone trying to do something to support completing the mission. It's got to be 2012.
It's not bad for the youth, it's bad for the world if we fail. It's not important just for Ugandan people, it's important for everyone.
It's hard to look back on some parts of human history, because when we heard about injustice, we cared, but we didn't know what to do. Too often, we did nothing. But if we're going to change that, we have to start somewhere. So we're starting here with Joseph Kony, because now we know what to do. Here it is. Ready? In order for Kony to be arrested this year, the Ugandan military has to find him. In order to find him, they need the technology and training to track him in the vast jungle. That's where the American advisors come in. But in order for the American advisors to be there, the US government has to deploy them. They've done that, but if the government doesn't believe the people care about arresting Kony, the mission will be canceled. In order for the people to care, they have to know. And they will only know if Kony's name is everywhere. This is the dream. Kony arrested for all the world to see, and the abducted children returned home. Here's the biggest problem. You want to know what it is?
Yeah.
Nobody knows who he is.
But I know, but I know who he is because I see him on this picture right now.
He's not famous. He's invisible. Joseph Kony's invisible. Here is how we're going to make him visible. We are going to make Joseph Kony a household name, not to celebrate him, but to bring his crimes to the light. And we are starting this year, 2012. We are targeting 20 culture makers and 12 policymakers to use their power for good. Let's start with the 20 culture makers. Celebrities, athletes, and billionaires have a loud voice, and what they talk about spreads instantly.
I'd like indicted war criminals to enjoy the same level of celebrity as me. That seems fair. That's our objective, is to just shine a light on it.
If our goal is to get Kony's name known, the known should join us. We are targeting 20 of the most diverse and influential culture makers to speak out about Kony and make him famous.
Oprah,
Mark Zuckerberg,
Ryan Seacrest,
Bono.
Then we're going after policymakers, the ones that have the authority to see Kony captured. They decide if the advisors stay or leave. So we need to remind them that in this election year of fighting and name-calling, no matter what side you're on, this is something we can all agree on.
If a senator or congressman notices 25 phone calls on any issue, on any given day, it is noted.
When citizens, by the hundreds of thousands, start demanding that our government do something, suddenly it becomes in the national interest of the United States government to respond to this problem.
We've identified the 12 policymakers that could change the game regarding Kony, so we're targeting them.